some adventures feel almost dreamlike, where even in the moment, you know you'll remember every detail. That was Cairns and the Great Barrier Reef for us. After sailing up from Tasmania, we arrived in the tropical north of Australia, where palm trees frame the marina and the coral sea glows in every shade of blue possible. Cairns practically invites adventure, and for us, the Great Barrier Reef was the moment we'd been waiting for. We booked a small group snorkel trip to the Upolu Reef, and what we found there was unforgettable. Vibrant coral, giant clams the size of a loveseat, clownfish, sea turtles, and we were merely visitors in their world. But the adventure didn't end in Cairns. As the sun set and we sailed away, we began a new chapter. 5 full days at sea, just us, the Crown Princess with 3,000 of our newest friends, and the wide open ocean, while a Category 4 cyclone churned only a couple hundred kilometers away near Darwin. This episode is all about the contrast, the wonder of the reef, and the vast quiet of the days spent crossing open water. We're Scott and Melissa, the Sunshine Travelers.
We're all about exploring the world and sharing the journey with you, whether you're a seasoned traveler, dreaming of your next adventure, or just here for the stories.
No matter where you are on your travel journey, we've got firsthand experiences, tips, and plenty of inspiration from some of the most amazing places on Earth.
So buckle up and get ready to travel with us.
Before we get started, we want to apologize if you're one of the early people downloading our last episode on Sydney and Brisbane. We were experiencing issues uploading files to the internet, and in a rush to get the show uploaded, we inadvertently uploaded the unedited version. Yes, you got to see some of the behind-the-scenes look at what an episode looks like before it's edited. You saw all of the blemishes and some of the raw, unfiltered takes. But now, at least you know we are real. And thanks to one of our biggest fans for catching it and reaching out to us. For everyone else, just wait. It's likely to happen again, and you'll get a good laugh at us when you hear it. Just realize how much effort we put into providing you with great content every week.
All right, Scott, so let's talk about Cairns. I had been pronouncing it, Cairns and all kinds of stuff. And so then, of course, when we arrived and they're talking about Cairns. So completely different spelling from that one in France. I do still remember stepping off the ship and feeling that very thick, warm air. It was definitely tropical, but calm and completely different from Tasmania just a week before when we first got on the ship.
Yeah, our last port before Cairns was Brisbane, where we had spent our time with family and those cute native Australian animals. But in Cairns, we could really tell that we had headed north towards a more tropical and warm climate. So long sleeves, jackets, and sweaters were absolutely in our past now.
All right, so we're going to share with you what we did, but I wanted to add this first. I used to think that the Great Barrier Reef was only for people who did scuba diving and stuff like that, but no, 100% it's not. There are opportunities to snorkel the Great Barrier Reef because it stretches 1,430 miles along the northeastern coast of Queensland, Australia. So it stretches from down near Bundaberg, about 4 hours north of Brisbane, and my sister and my nephew, that's where they actually visited that very south part of the reef after we met up with them. Past Cairns, where we visited, all the way to the tip of Cape York Peninsula at Australia's far northeast corner. So we decided to book a tour to the Great Barrier Reef to snorkel on our own, separate from the ones offered on the cruise ship, with a company called Reef Adventures. And I found them on Viator. And that absolutely turned out to be the best decision for us. We wanted something that was small and personal, not a big boat with hundreds of people. And so I want to reiterate here that cruise ship tours can be a great option. And we have booked them on this trip. We've booked them on other trips, but they aren't the only option. And a few things, they can often be more expensive. And so if you find yourself disappointed if a cruise ship excursion is sold out, or it's not what you were looking for, or the pricing's really high, Viator and some of the other tour companies can be a great option as well. And that's actually how we, I think, Scott, the first cruise that we did in Europe, or the first cruise that we really did where this was, an option.
Well, we booked the Mediterranean cruise last minute. So all of the onboard excursions or the excursions offered by the cruise line were already filled up.
Yes, and on that trip, specifically, we wanted to go to the Alhambra, and then that one was booked up. So that's actually, how we kind of discovered this little hack, because at that point, we hadn't done a lot of cruising. And funny enough, we were actually on buses to go there with people from the cruise ship on that particular case. So don't think that it's booked up. It's not an option. It could be an option that you could book something last minute once you get on the cruise. But this has really been a great option for us. And this turned out to be a fantastic day.
We met up with our crew in a small shopping center that is near the marina. And that's where they gave us our stinger suits. Now, the stinger suit is a compulsory thing that they have to provide because this time of year you can have jellyfish. We didn't see any, so it wasn't a problem. But they do provide them just in case. And they organized everybody into small groups of about 25. And now we're going to start our journey out to the Great Barrier Reef.
So we boarded these very nice speedboats that were covered, which was great because then that way you're protected from the sun until you get out there. There were several rows of seat up in front of the captain. So you are sitting facing forward. So it's pretty stable getting out there. The ride out is about 90 minutes. But Scott, honestly, it didn't really feel that way at all. It seemed to go by pretty fast. The crew shared stories about the reef conservation and what we might see. And you could tell that we were immediately going to love this place. So Maria and Caitlin were the other two staff members on board. They mingled amongst the guests and answered any questions about what we were going to see. And then Lincoln captained the boat and was in charge of the playlist, which was quite fun. So Lincoln, well done on the playlist. It reminded of us doing some road trips with our son because he's also really great at playlists. I imagine that he and Lincoln are probably about the same age. And so we felt right at home on board. And I wanted to say too, real quick, that Caitlin was actually an American. She actually went to college in Florida, just a few hours south of us. And she's originally from Kansas. So she is working now to do these tours on the Great Barrier Reef. All right. And then we anchored at the Upolu Reef. The very first thing that we saw was a sea turtle swimming up along the side of the boat. And sea turtles are absolutely my favorite thing to see and to swim with. The water was so clear that you could see the ocean floor from where we were in the boat. And so we knew this was going to be epic, and we couldn't wait to jump into that water.
And if you've never snorkeled at the Great Barrier Reef, here's what it's like. You put your face in the water and instantly you enter into another universe. Crystal clear water with all of these amazing corals in colors of blues and pinks and purples. You have these swaying anemones with schools of fish that look like they're straight out of the movie Finding Nemo.
And the giant clams. Scott, I knew that they could be big, but seeing them in person, they were just absolutely huge.
Yeah, I honestly thought that maybe they weren't clams. They were so big. I thought, that's got to be like just some coral because they had these purple, look like fluffy, velvety lips to them. And so I was like, maybe that's coral. Maybe those aren't clams. But yes, they were.
And imagine thinking The Little Mermaid and going through the ride at, Disney World or something like that. I mean, they were that big. And then to be able to see that animal that is basically lives inside of them, right? Before they die. And then you see them, on the beach or whatever. Not ever that big, but and to see them filtering the water through them. I mean, they're just absolutely stunning creatures.
And on the way out there, Maria and Caitlin had told us that there was most likely going to be sea turtles there. Just imagine, they get to do this once or twice a day. They told us there would most likely be some sea turtles there. And sure enough, we found these very peaceful hawksbill turtles feeding on some grasses and kind of just meandering through the corals. And that really put us at our happy place. I know that I almost forgot that we were there with a group of people because it was just so completely peaceful watching all this happen underneath you.
Yeah, and I have to say, what was nice about that is that, I mean, it wasn't like they were pressuring you to hurry or anything like that, but it was kind of like she's going to be the leader and she's going to be at the end, just so that we could keep everybody. They had certain spots that they know of that they wanted everybody to see. But you also, it's different from snorkeling when you go out on your own and then you're having to be very aware of, how far away am I? How, what's the current starting to look like and stuff like that. Now, when we were there, it was an absolutely calm day. So we couldn't have had better conditions. And because it was such a small group, it absolutely never felt crowded, though, being in the group. We just naturally drifted into our own little pockets of the reef. And the way the coral was shaped, I mean, there were towers and ridges and little canyons. It really did feel like each section was like exploring a different little neighborhood. And then our guide, Maria, would point out things along the way. Sometimes she would dive down to draw our attention to certain things on the ocean floor. And she was even taking some pictures that we'll tell you about in a little bit. It was honestly very, very peaceful. Just you and the reef and the sound of the breath in your snorkel and the way the waves or the water like sounds, the crackling, I guess, when you snorkel.
Are you looking to plan your next unforgettable adventure? At Sunshine Travelers Experiences, we specialize in helping you create tailor-made travel journeys that turn your vacation dreams into reality. Whether you're craving a relaxing beach escape, an awe-inspiring cultural journey, or a thrilling outdoor adventure, we can help. Why choose Sunshine Travelers Experiences? Personalized itineraries designed just for you, expert travel advice and insider tips, seamless booking from start to finish, exclusive access to top destinations and hidden gems. We also book cruises, all-inclusives, groups, tours, and so much more. If you're unsure where to even start planning that bucket list trip, start by asking us. Then let Sunshine Travelers Experiences handle the planning so you can focus on making the memories. Explore now, sunxtravel.com. If you have any questions, email us info@sunshinetravelers.com. Plus the clownfish. I think we spotted at least 3 of the little Nemo families hiding amongst the anemones. And I'll be honest with you, I did think that there would be more fish along the reefs. There was plenty of fish to see, and seeing this clownfish was probably a top 10, but I was surprised that there weren't more fish there. Hands down, though, it was one of our top snorkeling days anywhere in the world, and I think my 3 favorites were the clownfish among the anemones, the bright blue starfish that are called blue linkia, and then the hawksbill sea turtles.
Yeah, honestly, the coral itself was unlike anything that we have ever seen. Absolutely. I mean, there were plenty of fish, not like a zillion fish, but I think that hands down, the variety and the amount of coral.
So one thing that we loved about this company called Reef Adventures is that if you didn't have an underwater camera or a GoPro with you, they took photos of some of the key things that we saw, the turtles, the clownfish, and even made a point to get photos of each couple or group under the water, with their heads out of the water and underneath, and then also on the boat. And for me, I had brought my GoPro with me, but the last time that I'd used it, we were in Iceland, and I think the minerals from the water at the lagoon or whatever, I didn't clean it with fresh water afterwards, and I think they messed up the camera. So I was really bummed that I didn't have my GoPro to take with me, but it was the best of both worlds because we were able to just focus on seeing everything and not having to worry about, to dive down to get the pictures and all those things. And they didn't charge anything extra for this. They did give a disclaimer that if you didn't want your picture taken or you were with someone, you shouldn't be with them, just to tell them, and they wouldn't take it. So they didn't want any Coldplay concert issues going on there. And they do post the pictures of each trip on their Facebook page within a couple of hours afterwards, and they don't charge anything to download those pictures. And we thought that was just really great.
Yeah, I love that so much, the fact that it was included in the tour. So Reef Adventures is a small family-run business. They did a fantastic job. They had a great staff of these young people that really took good care of us. I also liked that it was a half-day tour. Now, Scott, I will be honest with you, it was difficult to find that. But 1.5 hours of snorkeling was plenty for us at one given time. Sometimes if we've snorkeled several times a day, we'll snorkel. Let's say in St. John, for example, we'll snorkel, we'll drive, we'll get something to eat, and then we'll snorkel again. But that's plenty of time. And actually, there were several people I noticed that got back in the boat before that because it can be very, very tiring. So we did the 10 o'clock time slot, which put us back in Cairns at 2 o'clock. So it works perfectly for cruise ship itineraries. And I also think the good thing about it is that you book in advance. And so they basically had, just like however many boats that they needed, obviously, until they are at capacity with what they can handle. And had we had docked where we were originally supposed to, which was right there in Cairns, it would have literally been a 5 to 10 minute walk. But the cruise ship thankfully provided buses from Yorkeys Knob about 25 minutes away, dropped us off right there by where their offices were located for us to check in plenty of time for the 9:30 check-in for our 10 o'clock tour.
Cairns is definitely a destination that we want to return to. From this marina, Reef Adventures recommended some of their fellow tour operators for jet ski tours, a speedboat tour, and I would love to do a helicopter tour of the Great Barrier Reef and see it from above. We've done a helicopter tour of the Nepali coast and Kauai and Hawaii, and there's nothing quite like it. And nearby, there's also mountains and rainforests and waterfalls. So I think there's so much more to explore in this area. And then, if you're really adventurous and you're there in the right time of year and the weather's right, you'll probably want to even continue forward on to Darwin from there. So we left Cairns late in the afternoon, and as the sun set, it hit us that the next stretch of journey would be 5 full days at sea. But it wasn't without a little tension. So while the seas were calm in Cairns, a Category 4 cyclone was swirling a couple hundred kilometers away near Darwin.
So Princess did an incredible job keeping us safely on the outer edge. We never did feel unsafe, but one of the days we definitely did feel those long rolling swells and the boat was rocking a bit more. We said this was our warm-up for the upcoming trip to Antarctica as we passed through the Drake Passage. And out in the open ocean like that, we went days without seeing another ship, just endless water and sky. And we've never done something like this before, but come to find out, it really wasn't a big deal at all. For the first couple of days, we stayed close to Northern Australia, so land was never very far away. And it gives you a whole new perspective about how big Australia is. I did and still find myself just checking like Google Maps to kind of see, okay, where are we now? Where are we now? And so I've kind of screenshotted some of those just for fun.
For most people on the ship, sea days force you into a little bit more of a relaxed pace. But for me, this was a long stretch of time where I could continue to work. And I kept a very different schedule than the rest of the people on the boat. I would work till 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning and sleep in the next morning. And Melissa tried keeping the same schedule so that we wouldn't disturb one another. And we would get up just before lunch, order our coffee to the room, which is the greatest thing on this Princess ship. You can order your specialty coffees and they will bring them to you. You don't even have to go anywhere. Then we would spend a few hours either working on travel stuff or listening to live music at the various spots across the ship. And we always had a short break in the evenings for either taking in a show or going to one of our favorite restaurants for dinner.
And for me, it gave me time to go to the gym while everyone else was at the pool or catching a quick nap or even going to dinner, depending on what time I went. And then also seeking out some quiet places where I could read or do some work on our content on my own. But it was really interesting because it's almost like you fall into a little bit of routine. And I'm sure that's the same way. We would see people on the ship, playing games, reading cards, doing their Sudoku puzzles, going to watch a movie. But it's almost like you fall into a routine that you would at home, a little bit more kind of like, slow travel where you're not, rushing from one port to the next port to the next port. So it's just, it was an interesting concept for us just because we never really experienced anything like that away from home.
Well, Cairns gave us one of those rare travel moments that kind of stays with you long after the trip is over. And drifting above the reef reminded me how big and beautiful our world really is and how lucky we are to get to experience it together.
And those long days at sea that followed were a gift. They slowed me down just enough to take it all in, the reef and the journey, and reflect on it in the quiet that comes in between. It reminded me that the best trips aren't about where you go, but they're absolutely how the experience makes you feel.
If you've never been to Australia, you should definitely put it on your bucket list. The Great Barrier Reef is more than just surfing and great white sharks. And don't underestimate the joy of sea days. They might surprise you. You'll definitely find yourself wishing that you had made more time to explore this great country and all of the adventure that it has to offer. Thanks for joining us today, and as always, remember that the world is full of sunshine and surprises. Make 2026 the year that you go further than you ever imagined. Well, that's it for today's episode. Wherever you're listening from, we hope we've added a little spark to your travel dreams today.
If you've been enjoying the show, a 5-star review on your favorite podcast platform goes a long way. It helps new listeners join our Sunshine Travelers family.
Be sure to follow or subscribe so you never miss an episode.
And join us on Instagram or Facebook at Sunshine Travelers Podcast. Remember, that's Travelers with one L.
And if the stories, tips, and adventures we share bring a little sunshine to your week, you can even buy us a cup of coffee now. You'll find the link in the show notes.
And of course, share this episode with a friend. Adventure is always better together.